No, you good. You good. You good. Yeah, you good. Bear with me 1 second, Israel. Wow. All right, Shalom, Israel. Yahweh Bashem Yahshua the Thumb. Yahweh Shemal Thumb Bashem Yahshua. Priest and officer Yadiah. Hold it down. This is the Monday night scripture breakdown class. Now, black man, Latino man, First Nation man, and woman. This is Passover week. Get a Lord at your hand, man, for the Lord's Passover. Everybody should be making their way down, you know what I mean, in Cocoa Beach, Florida. You know, the Lord's Passover, you know what I mean? It's April 15th. It's Friday, sundown. You know what I mean? I look forward to seeing all the Akim and Akwafim this time around for the Lord's Passover. It is a glorious week to behold, man, because we got to understand. When you was in the world, you went hard for Esau's holidays. You went hard, you know what I mean, for your birthday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, you know what I mean, and Christmas and New Year's, not understanding, man, that those things were wrong. Like, this is what we have to celebrate, man. The Lord gave us high holy days and observances that we have to observe, man. And the Lord's Passover is especially important, man, because when the Lord delivered us from our enemies, the Egyptians. And we got to realize this too, man, because as blacks and Latinos and First Nation men and women, we have to understand one crucial thing, man, is that the oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. Right. That's the thing we got to understand. And this oppressor here in America is never going to love us. Like, all throughout this week, I cannot help but notice on the news, Ibada, that everybody is talking about what Putin is doing over there in the Ukraine, unleashing, you know what I mean, chemical weapons. I saw, you know what I mean, they were talking about that the Ukraine has never looked like this before. Their streets and neighborhood, we have not seen as a society such devastation. When we see devastation like this every day in our ghettos and our barrios and them concentration camps that the First Nation man and woman and Seminole Indian man and woman live on. That should tell you right there how evil the oppressor is and how evil they've been to the Lord's chosen people, which is us blacks, Latinos, and First Nation men and women. One thing that we got to realize as the Lord's chosen people is that it's time for us to come out of the world. You a brother, you got to gird up your loins and come into this truth and realize, man, that you got to serve the Most High Yahweh the right way, the one West way. Now, if I could, Ali Izar, can you give me Leviticus chapter 20 and verse 26? And it starts with separating ourselves from this oppressor. One of the key things that we have to realize as blacks and Latinos is that separation is key. Like, take the Lord's Passover for an example. If you a heathen, you can't come into the Lord's Passover. That is strictly for blacks, Latinos, and First Nation men and women. It ain't for them. You can look at the so-called Jew who's not a Jew, but the devil that the Bible speaks of, all you wouldn't say there. But they celebrate it. They do this. They keep the Shabbat. That's all nonsense. They do not, because they are not God's chosen people. The hardest thing for us to realize is that we are people robbed and spoiled of our identity, not realizing that we're the real Israelites of antiquity. And that black man in that ghetto, that First Nation man in that concentration camp, and that Latino man and woman in that barrio, we're God's chosen people. And the key, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? For us is to start to separate and come back to our identity and our culture. Now, if I could, Ali Azar, give me Leviticus 20 and verse 26, because I'm going to show you separation in the Bible. Read what you got, boy.
Leviticus.
Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 20, verse 26.
How about you cut the speaker on? Keep going.
And ye shall be holy unto me.
The Lord said, ye shall be holy unto me. What does it mean to be holy? I'll tell you what it doesn't mean. Holy ain't your silly mama, auntie with that crazy feathered hat on in church. Holy is not your pastor or your imam with the white robe and gown on. Holy means set apart. Holy means separate. Even when you look at the Bible is called the Holy Bible, the set apart Bible. Who is the Bible set apart for? Who is the Bible separate for? The Bible, it holds the records of blacks, Latinos, and First Nation men and women. And the Lord is telling the children of Israel that ye shall be separate unto me. That's what it means to be holy. Meaning separation is the key. You got to realize, too, as Latinos and First Nation men and women and black men and women, that when Christ walked this earth, man, our King, Yahweh Shah Mashiach, the greatest man ever walked this earth, that the world ignorantly knows as Jesus Christ, he was not for all races of people. He was only for that black man and woman in that ghetto, that Latino man and woman in that barrio, and that First Nation man and woman on that concentration camp. He wasn't out here teaching all people. He was only sent unto his people. And who are Christ's people? The children of Israel. And we are those children of Israel, man. Now the Lord is telling us that ye shall be holy, meaning separate. Read on.
Unto me.
Unto me. Meaning we are separate unto the Lord. Meaning the Lord don't give a damn about them Ukrainians being bombed to piss. The Lord don't give a damn about the oppressor that's crying. Listen, man, like Bob, can you find me that story, right? About that train that blew up in the Ukraine. Can you hold that for me? Because they were so upset. They were crying, Ali Azar, talking about, well, you know, Putin, they blew up that train that was trying to get the Ukrainians to safety. It's such a tragedy. Let me tell you something. Them same trains that they was trying to get their people out of, those are the same trains that they was telling black men and women and Latino men and women that they couldn't get on while Putin was bombing them to smithereens in the Ukraine. Now, what you got to realize as Latinos and First Nation and black men and women, our sympathy should only be for one another. This is why we have to be separate, even in the midst of the oppressor warring against himself. Their evil takes first priority when it comes against the true children of Israel, black man, Latino man, and woman. And now it's time for us to realize that. If I could, read on.
For I, the Lord, am holy.
For I, the Lord, am holy, meaning the Lord is separate. He ain't for all people. The Lord ain't for them Ukrainians that got bombed to smithereens for trying to escape on them trains, man. The Lord was for that Latino sisters that you didn't get on them trains. The Lord was for that black man and woman that you did not get on them trains, man. And what you got to realize is, as blacks and Latinos and First Nation men and women, our God is only for us. Why is it that every other nation has their own God that looks like them? The Asians got Buddha. The East Indians have Shiva. The oppressor has Caesar Borgia. The Arabs have something of the figment of their imagination, Allah. But what do we get? We get the same thing as the Arabs and the oppressor? Nah. We have a God, and his name is Yahweh, and he's only the God of niggas and Latinos and First Nation men and women. He said, for I, the Lord, am holy, meaning God is separate. God is set apart. Everybody right now wants to cry for the Ukraine. They want to cry because Putin is locking up all those adult Russian protesters in Moscow, giving them 8 years, giving the kids 5 years, Ali Azar. God damn, Push Shiesty giving the kids 5 years. Well, guess what? Our kids are serving a sentence right now. They in them concentration camps that you call reservations, and the ages vary. You know what I mean? From young to old, because the oppressor has no picks when it comes to the North American Indian, that First Nation man and woman. The oppressor has no picks when it comes to the Seminole Indian man and woman. You can forget about that Mexican man and woman that's in them that's in them concentration camps right now, down there at the border. But you can let 150,000 Ukrainians come on through. But the tribe of Issachar, the tribe of Zabalawan, you know what I mean, and the tribe of Asher, they got to sit in them cages, man. Like, we supposed to feel sympathy for the oppressor? Nah. Black man, Latino man, First Nation man and woman, you better start having sympathy for your own. You better start having patience and sympathy for your own people, man, your brother and your sister. We're the ones that die in the streets every day that nobody gives a damn about. We're the ones that get locked up in them cages and get deported that the earth could care less about. But the important thing to realize, man, our God cares about us. Why do you think, you know what I mean, Philadelphia, here in Philadelphia, they just reimposed the mask mandate. The oppressor Fauci, Dr. Fauci even said, we're going to have to deal with COVID because we can't get rid of it. There is no end in sight. And Marakatha Yahweh, why Yahweh Shah for that? Who do you think sent that coronavirus that seems to morph into a different, you know what I mean, more destructive variant than before? Who do you think sent that virus? The Most High did. Because you got to realize, man, the Most High is destroying the oppressor in America and the rest of these heathens for what they have done to our people. And all we have to do is keep the Lord's laws, statutes, and commandments. We have to keep these high holy days, man. Keep the Passover, man. And the sidebar, and for those of you that are out there celebrating your own little Passover, having them in them nightclubs, you know what I mean, with them bottle girls, you know what I mean, charging $2,000-3,000 at the door, because I know what y'all fake Israelites and Christians is doing. That is not the Lord's Passover. The true Lord's Passover is being observed in Cocoa Beach, Florida this Friday. The rest of y'all are just unruly children. But that's what you got to realize, man. Now is the time to come back to your real culture, your true identity, and realize the Lord don't give a damn about what these heathens say and do. We have to do what our God commanded us to do, what our King commanded us to do. And the Lord right now is telling us that we need to be separate unto him because he is separate. Also, if y'all have any questions, y'all can type them in the chat. Keep reading, Aliazor.
For I, the Lord, am holy, and have severed you from other people.
And have severed you from other people. What does it mean when the Lord said that he have severed you from other people? Meaning this, right? If I was to sever my arm from my body, it's no longer attached. Arm is no longer attached. Meaning this. The Lord saw us in the midst of these other nations, right? And severed us for a great reason. Because we're not supposed to be intermingled with these heathens, man. We're not supposed to be all joined together, all kumbaya with the oppressor and these Africans, man. Tonight we're going to go over Joseph, you know, in our first, you know what I mean, big captivity. When we first went into Egypt, man. We got to realize this. When we went, just to touch on it a little bit, when we went into Egypt, we went into Egypt 70 deep. And one of the first things, because Joseph was a wise brother, you know what I mean, the father of, you know what I mean, of Ephraim and Manasseh, or the so-called Puerto Ricans and Cubans today. He told us, man, to go and tell Pharaoh that we like to deal with the sheep, that we sheep herders, man. And they separated us from the Egyptians. And we're going to get that in just a second. Because we're supposed to be separate. We're not supposed to be together. What has being together with America benefited us? If somebody can please type that in the chat. What have you gained from identifying yourself, you know what I mean, as your oppressor, as an American? What have you gained from that? Just, and you can type it in the chat. What benefit did we get? Because we can eat in Woolworth? Because we can sit in the front of the bus? You know, I would rather, as blacks and Latinos, have our own bus, have our own restaurants. Like, what the hell is the appeal of these other nations anyway? And that has always been a thorn to us because we've always wanted to see what this nation is doing and what that nation is doing. And that has always been to our detriment. Let me explain something to y'all real quick. There ain't nothing special about the oppressor. There ain't nothing special about Nfutu Ngala, the Black Panther. Ain't nothing special about them, nothing special about the Arabs or the Asians. They don't have this higher sense of morality or knowledge. They don't have it. And you can forget about it. The real knowledge, you know what I mean, that every black and Latino and First Nation man and woman should have is right here in this Bible. And what you don't realize is you envy the oppressor. If I could, Aliazar, before we get that, give me Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 31. Because here's the thing that our people really suffer from. Our people suffer from believing in their poor little minds, in your poor Christian heart, because all this does is pump blood. This right here is your heart, your mind. And your mind is telling you, as a silly black man, or Latino man, or woman, that you free, white, and 21. And I'm here to tell you, you are not free, white, and 21. You cannot live like this oppressor and think you are going to prosper. How so? Am I just saying anything, Ibad Aliazar? Am I just saying anything? Let's cross-examine that statement for a minute. Shalom, sis. How you doing? Yahweh Shema, Thambashim Yahweh Shah. Okay, great. Now, let's cross-examine it for a minute. A lot of you out there want to be a gangster. You want to live like some Italian mafioso. But here's the problem. When you try to live like the oppressor, what usually happens? The oppressor can sniff cocaine, go and, commit mass murders and be an evil, wicked bastard, and he'll barely get jail time. That's him being free, white, and 21. What happens to you, black man, Latino man, and woman? Who runs and fills them jails? Who controls the prison industrial program? Go ahead, Ibad. We have questions online. All right, Condos, but I'll get to it in 1 second. Now, go ahead, Aliazar. Esau, the oppressor. The oppressor is the one that does it. They lock us up. They're the ones that put the drugs in our communities. They're the ones, I saw something on the news today, they talking about these ghost guns, where some devil was out there printing and creating ghost guns and flooding the streets with them. That ain't stuff that we do as blacks and Latinos, man. How do you think these drugs and guns get in our communities? A couple years ago, they found like 2 big shipments on 2 big boats down there in the harbor in South Philadelphia of cocaine. Over $1 billion worth of cocaine down there in South Philadelphia, and nobody went to jail. Nobody, Aliazar, it blew my mind, and nobody was even asking questions. They was like, yeah, we seized X amount of cocaine in the $1 billion range. And I'm like, well, goddamn, where do you think that cocaine was going? Where do you think the weed and the rest of the drugs are going? They're going into, go ahead. Into the black suspension. That's right. They're going into our communities. That's where they go. And you think you can live like the oppressor and being a gangster? You think you can live like the oppressor's woman and being a whore, black woman, Latino woman? Let me explain something to you. You was never meant to be a whore. You was never meant to be a whoremonger, brother. Now read the scripture that I asked for. Proverbs 3 and verse 31. I'll take that. Why are you getting that? Let me get that question, Ibad.
This is from Shah Tharab Banaf. What happens if you eat unleavened bread during the Passover without knowing?
Wait, say it again.
What happens if you eat unleavened bread during the Passover without knowing?
What happens if you eat unleavened bread during the Passover without knowing? Now, you're required to eat, you know what I mean? You got to eat that unleavened bread, you know what I mean, after Passover and during the Passover. Now, let's say if you did not know. That's why it's always good to read, you know what I mean, the labels of damn near everything and find out. You know, big shout out, you know what I mean, to the generals and the captains and the officers, you know what I mean, above me for putting the list out. Officer 5000 puts out a list every year that I will definitely share on my page and put in the chat. Now, if you can just something that you was unawares, you know what I mean, that's not on you. But here's the thing, if you continue to eat that, you know what I mean, on through the Feast of Unleavened Bread, that's going to be on you, sis. Because during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you got to get all the leaven out of your house. And why is that? Because when we came out of Egypt, you know what I mean, we was in such haste, you know what I mean, getting the hell up out of there. We ain't have time for the bread to break, so we ate the bread, you know what I mean, as it was, unleavened. Right. Now, if you don't know, you know what I mean, we can't, you know what I mean, the Lord is not going to count that against you. But if you continue to eat foods that have leaven in it when you know you're not supposed to, now, you know what I mean, you are willingly transgressing the Lord. Right. I hope that answers your question. There any more, Ibad, before we get to the... Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is from Marcus Harris. Can you give a list or name of food that is leavened, etc.?
I'll give some examples of some foods that have leaven. All right, I'll give you a list. Most of your bread you're not going to be able to eat, like rolls and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to eat hamburgers. You're not going to eat like sandwiches and stuff like that. What else is good? You cannot eat certain fries. You can't eat because they have leaven in it. What else? You know what I mean? There's other foods too. You know, you can't eat pizza, of course. Like, it's a rough one. Piece of unleavened bread, especially if it's your first time. You know what I mean? Anything, you know what I mean, that has the leaven that causes, you know what I mean, the bread and everything to rise. You cannot eat that. Even like certain chicken spots, you know what I mean? Like Crown Fried Chicken is good. You know what I mean? That's approved because that's allowed. They don't use leaven. But spots like KFC, you can't use that because they use leaven in their chicken. Can't eat Popeyes. I believe, don't quote me on this, that McDonald's nuggets are tawab. I'm not sure about the sandwich, but it can be. But here's the thing, too, right? When you look at that and how glorious it is. This is something that our God commanded us to do. And why? Why? I brought it up earlier. Because we was in such haste getting the hell up out of Egypt, man. And the Lord said, we have to remember this. We got to remember. I mean, give me, I believe it's Deuteronomy 32nd chapter, remember the days of old. Here's the thing that we got to realize as the Lord shows the people and why we have to remember these things and why important it is. Because here in America, we are not taught these things. You know what I mean? When you was in the Christian church and the Muslim mosque, was you taught to keep the Passover? No. You were not taught to keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread. You were not taught, you know what I mean, that the Sabbath was the seventh day of the week, you know what I mean, Saturday. You was taught what? To celebrate Christmas, Thanksgiving, your birthday, and pay your tithes, you know what I mean, and that's it. And you can eat whatever the hell you want to eat. That is not what the God of this Bible told us. The God of Israel, the God of Black, Latinos, and First Nation men and women. His name is Yahweh. We have commandments that we have to keep. You know what I mean? We have statutes that we have to keep. We have our holy days that we have to keep. You know what I mean? I believe I saw this in the chat. Let's say, for instance, you can't make it down, you know what I mean, to Cocoa Beach, Florida. Let's say you can't make it down there to Cocoa Beach, Florida to observe the Passover. So what you would do is we're going to live stream it from Cocoa Beach, Florida. You know what I mean? And you would watch it from home. I mean, you would, you know what I mean, watch it from home, you know, the live stream that we're going to have going on. You know what I mean? Get some lamb, get some unleavened bread. You know what I mean? Go to your supermarket, get some unleavened bread. Even Doritos. Doritos count as unleavened bread. Right, iPod? I mean, you got to make sure every day for 7 days that you eat unleavened bread as well. So if you can't make it down there to the Passover for whatever reason, you know what I mean, the oppressor being the devil, not being able to get you off, you know what I mean, or things like that, or other circumstances that may prohibit you. You know what I mean? If you're a sister that's unclean, or you just having a baby, you know what I mean? You can just watch the Passover from home because you know what I mean? We for sure are going to live stream it from Cocoa Beach, Florida. Go ahead, I pull the scripture that I asked for.
Oh, wow. This book of Deuteronomy, 32, verse 7. Mm-hmm. Remember the days of old.
The Lord said, remember the days of old. We have to remember the days of old, Black man, Latino man, First Nation man and woman. Why is the Lord telling us that we have to remember the days of old? We have to remember who we are. Because if you asked our people today, we have no clue about who we are, our identity, our culture, and our heritage. You walking around here still thinking that you're African and American, or you're not a descendant of Leo, Scipios, Africanus, or Americos Vespucci. That's two oppressors. How the hell can you be a descendant of two oppressors? Not realizing our real identity as the Jews of antiquity. We have to remember the days of old. We have to remember what these heathens have done to us. Like it says in Psalms, the 83rd chapter, man. You know what I mean? These other nations came together with one consent to cut us off from being a nation. That's why, you know what I mean, we say Barak Yahweh Shah for the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. And for Commander General Yohana for holding on to this truth, who never wavered, never folded, and never left. And held down these traditions and held on to these records that we have, man. And no one else can decipher or understand this Bible but the priests and prophets in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, man. Remember the days of old. Read on.
Consider the years of many generations.
Consider the years of many generations. You got to consider the years of many generations, of many of them that came before us, man. From Abba Bibbins, you know what I mean, down there to the seven heads, you know what I mean, from chief head priest Masha, Ariah, Yaikwab, you know what I mean, Lahab, you know what I mean, down to the generals, Commander General Yohana, General Muhammad, General Mayat, down, you know what I mean, the keeping these traditions, man, throughout our generations. And it's important to pass this down to our babies, to our children, So our children don't come up the way we did in the world. So they'll understand that we have to keep the Lord's Passover, that we have to keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread, man, that we have to keep the Sabbath, you know what I mean, the Feast of First Fruits. We got to remember, you know what I mean, what happened with Purim and, you know what I mean, and Hanukkah, the Feast of Tabernacles. Read on.
Okay. Ask thy father.
Ask thy father. Ask thy father. What does it mean by ask thy father? Ask thy father. Y'all may not want to understand or hear what I'm about to say. When it says ask thy fathers, man, you gotta ask the men above you, the men that are studying. You gotta ask Commanding General Yohana. That's who you have to ask. That's who you have to come to, man. Read on.
And he will show thee.
And he will show thee, because he for sure showed all of us. He for sure showed all of us, man. I'll give you an example, man. I was sitting out there, you know what I mean, and big shout out, you know what I mean, in this year's class, you know, Hebrew Academy class of 2022 for the blood of my brothers. There's plenty of days I've been out there in that field and I would look and say, damn, man, without this truth, I would have never known these brothers. I don't know Ibai. You know what I mean? Without this truth, I didn't know him. I didn't know Nakar. I didn't know Zarwai. I didn't know Officer Matazabah. I didn't know Kagar. I ain't know Mathum. I ain't know these mighty generals and captains and officers above me and the men above and the men below me and the sisters. I didn't know y'all. But by the grace and mercy of the Most High and this truth, man, in the Isupk, and with Commander General Yohana holding on to this truth, a lot of us ain't know each other from a can of paint, from all across, you know what I mean, the U.S. and all across the earth. But now that we all in this truth, it's like we known each other all our lives, man. Read on.
Thy elders, and they will tell thee.
And thy elders, and they will tell thee, man. Ask Commander General Yohana. Ask General Muhammad. Ask General Mayak. Heed to the counsel of these wise generals that we have and these wise captains and these wise officers, man, that you have here in the UPK. That's why it's important to ask these questions. That's why it's important to come to class, whether it be online or if you can come into class physically and shed yourself of America and shed yourself of the world. Like, it's time to dust that Christianity off of you. It's time to take that Islam and take all whatever different religions or beliefs that you thought was true, that you thought was right. Shake it off of you. They love to say, Ibai, that, oh, we brainwashed. That's the problem with y'all niggas. Y'all niggas is brainwashed. You're damn right. Now, here they go, Ibai. I can hear them now. I can see my crazy ass homies and mother in the world talking about that nigga finally admitted he brainwashed. Meaning this, if my brain is now washed, what was it before? Filthy, disgusting, revolting, just like yours. So I take it as a compliment when you say that my brain is washed. And that's the thing. That's what you got to realize, man, black man, Latino man, First Nation man and woman. You got to ask these elders. You got to ask these mighty generals and captains and officers that's in this truth, man. And that's why it's important, man, that we do these classes. That's why it's essential that every brother and sister come into the UPK. Because the thing is, if you continue to learn, you know what I mean, from your oppressor daddy, or continue to learn from your homosexual pastor or imam, you are going to continue to be lost out there in the world, man. Now, if I could, there are any more questions I borrowed, or was that it?
There is another question, sir.
What is it?
This is from Yakuya Zabalawan. Salaki, if I may, what exactly are the bitter herbs we eat at Passover?
What exactly are the bitter herbs that we eat at Passover? Mm-hmm. It's on the tip of my tongue. You're going to have to hold that one for General Muhammad. I'm going to hold that one for General Muhammad. Now, if I could, give me where we went into the land of Goshen.
Okay.
Yeah, where Joseph, you know what I mean, told us, you know what I mean, to go to Pharaoh. If there are any more questions, to type them in. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 45 and verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and thou shalt be near unto me.
Read above it.
Okay.
Read about 2 verses above it.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 45 and verse 8.
Mm-hmm.
So now it was not you that sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and Lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt.
Now, this is Joseph. Now it was not you that have sent me hither, but God. And he hath made me a father to Pharaoh, and Lord of all his house. Now, what you got to realize is, black man, Latino man, First Nation man and woman, Joseph was a hardcore brother. Joseph was a hardcore brother. Now, Joseph was in Egypt. He was in Egypt. And guess what? Was he completely immersed and integrated into Pharaoh's society and Egyptians' culture? No. He operated, you know what I mean, within their system. You know what I mean? Counseled Pharaoh because the Lord sent him there, man. Now, what you got to realize is you got a lot of brothers and sisters that are in high-ranking positions here in America, and what do they do for you? Black man, Latino man, First Nation man and woman. Joseph is a brother and a perfect example of a brother who did not compromise. Even though he was up in, you know what I mean, in Egypt's system, in their government, he never once did compromise. And just like Joseph, you have other examples of brothers like that. You had Daniel, you know what I mean, with Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon. Daniel also with Salakia, with Darius, you know what I mean, of Persia, where they did not compromise, you know what I mean, the truth. They did not compromise, you know what I mean, to say, oh, I can do some things with the Egyptians. You know, Joseph wasn't out there, Hotep, brother, wasn't out there talking about Ara and Amen Ra and all that other garbage, man. Joseph understood who the God of Israel is. Joseph understood that. And what we have to realize is this is why your celebrities, this is why your entertainers, this is why they are not qualified to lead blacks, Latinos, and First Nation men and women. Because the first thing they do is compromise. Take Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon came out there and said something that was true, that blacks and Latinos are the real Jews. But what happened? He slid off them comments real quick when they took his show, had him kissing the rabbi, you know what I mean, on the cheek and saying, oh, but I synthesize what, you know what I mean, what you said. I'm sorry. And now he a more. That's why you're not supposed to compromise. Joseph did not compromise, even though he was in a high-ranking position with the Egyptians. Now, if I could, Aliazar, can you pick it up? Genesis chapter 45 and verse 9. Matter of fact, you got it. Go ahead.
Oh God. This is the book of Genesis chapter 45 and verse 9. Haste ye and go up to my father and say unto him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, God hath made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down unto me, tarry not. Verse 10. And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen.
And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen. Now, the land of Goshen is where we were, separated from, you know what I mean, the Egyptians. And why? Why were we separated from the Egyptians? I'll tell you why. Because the Lord did not want us together with the Egyptians, dwelling hand in hand and living with them in prosperity. Not like that. That's why the Lord separated us, man, and put us in the land of Goshen. Joseph was wise, man. He understood even back then that we should not be together with the Egyptians. And that's the thing now. Our people, man, don't understand that we're not supposed to be joined hand in hand with the oppressor. We're not supposed to. And what we need to realize as Black, Latinos, and First Nation men and women, we have to get back to that. Now, if I could, Bobbity. Give me the one where they went to Pharaoh. Or is that the same chapter?
I think it's.
Come on, no sweat. Again, if y'all have any other questions, type them in the chat. Let me see if I can get there.
Question, sir.
Go ahead.
Shalom, sir, if I may. This is from Hassar Pakad. May I have another question? Shalom, sir, if I may, I have another question. Can you break down 2 Ezra 7 and 36?
2 Ezra 7 and verse 36. So, Sorry, because you might want to hold that for the general. I'm not sure if the general was going to teach tonight. Salaki, sir, Officer Kassar Bakad. He's over me. Go hold that for the general. But if I may, Second Ezra 7. He says Second Ezra 7 and verse 36.
Go ahead. Oh, so the question was for the general.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Come on, no sweat. You got to read me those.
Okay.
You find the scripture I was looking for about? It's in the same chapter? Come on, no sweat. No sweat. But again, and which is so heavy, right? Separation is key. Joseph knew, you know what I mean, with us coming in there, because we came into Egypt 70 deep, right? We came into Egypt 70 deep. You got it right, Bob? All right, most time correct. We came into Egypt 70 deep, and Joseph told us, yo, go to Pharaoh and tell him. Read what you got, right, Bob?
Let's go to Genesis 46 and verse 33. And it shall come to pass when Pharaoh shall call you and shall say, what is your occupation?
Now, it's going to come a time, right? When we came in there, right, Joseph was putting us to game. He said Pharaoh was going to call us, to want to speak with us, and asked us, what's our occupation? Read on. Meaning, what type of work do we do? Go ahead, sis. Read it. Announce where you at, Ibot.
This is the book of Genesis, the 46 and verse 34 now. That ye shall say, thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth, even until now.
Now, go to Pharaoh and tell him, yeah, we shepherds. We deal with the cattle. Why is Joseph telling us to tell Pharaoh this? Why? I'll tell you why. Because the Egyptians, right, they look down on our people or anybody, you know what I mean, that dealt with cattle. They believe, you know what I mean, that being a shepherd and dealing with the sheep and the cattle was a poor man's job. Like it's the lowest thing on the totem pole. Like imagine, you know what I mean, trying to go to an elevator plantation today, you know what I mean, a slavery, that's what we call jobs, and you tell them you're a custodian. Well, meaning you're a janitor. Or, you know what I mean, you know, a lot of the low entry jobs. That's what being a shepherd is. You know what I mean, like being a shepherd or being a sheep herder, dealing with the cattle. They looked at that like that. That was something that was beneath them. They was going to be looking at us like, oh, no, we got to keep them separate from us. And a lot of, and which is so heavy about it, right? And the scripture is about to entail in more detail on their response and why they did this. Go ahead, Ibai, read on.
Oh, God. Both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians.
Now, every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians, meaning they don't like shepherds. Like, hold up, you deal with the sheep. And this is what, Ashtabak, you want to help me out with this, huh? Because I think we went over this in the previous class. The Africans, the Egyptians, Mizraim, Montezarium in the Hebrew, they talking about, oh no, those, you deal with the sheep, you deal with the cattle. Brother, do you know what they do with the sheep and the cattle? You know what they do? They rape them animals, man. You know what I mean? You should see what them women in Ghana do to them cattle, man. I watched the video with these 5 Hamites over there in Ghana cut a cow up and then roll around in its insides and talking about they was doing it for voodoo. And some of y'all Negroes talking about you want to be African. Nah. Being a shepherd, it was an abomination to the Egyptians, meaning they look down, you know what I mean, on those that deal with the sheep and the upkeep of the animals and the cattle and stuff like that. When, if you look at like what Africans do today, you'd be like, well, goddamn. After a while, we were just watching the video, you know what I mean, and this this African woman, an albino African woman in Tanzania, was it? Man, the Hamites of her own tribe cut off her hands. And they plotting on the rest of her limbs. But they looking down on, you know what I mean, brothers and sisters that deal with the sheep and the cattle. Good night. But I digress from that. That's a topic for another day, previous class. What we got to realize as the Lord's chosen people, right? Go ahead, Ibach. What we got to realize is the Egyptians looked down on us. They was looking at us like, man, we better than them. They want to deal with the cattle and the sheep. No, let them dwell in Goshen. Go ahead, Osterwald.
If I could, what's heavy about that too is our people are always trying to join on to the oppressor because America, Egypt. It's like when they thought that we was disgusting and they wanted to be separate from us, we had all the businesses, we was thriving as a people and everything else. But as soon as we start getting to the point where we want to integrate and join on to them, even though we were still struggling, like to a degree, we were doing way better than now. We had nothing to show for anything that we had back then.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, Osterwald is bringing out is heavy, man. Read on.
Okay. This is the book of Genesis, 47, verse 1. Then Joseph came and told Pharaoh and said, my father and my brethren and their flocks and their herds and all that they had are come out of the land of Canaan. Behold, they are in the land of Goshen. 2.
Meaning they in the land of Goshen. Read on.
And he took some of his brothers, even 5 men, and presented them unto Pharaoh. Verse 3. And Pharaoh said unto his brother, what is your occupation?
Now, Pharaoh is asking, what is your occupation? What do you do for a living? Read on.
And they said unto Pharaoh, thy servants are shepherds.
Thy servants are shepherds, meaning we deal with the cattle, we deal with the sheep. Read on.
Both we and also our fathers. Verse 4. They said moreover unto Pharaoh, for to sojourn in the land are we come, for thy servants have no pasture for their flocks.
He said, listen, man, we ain't got no pasture for our flocks. Now they pleading with Pharaoh, gaming him up like, listen, we shepherds, we need, a certain pasture. We got to be able to deal with our animals. We need a certain type of land. Gaming him up the way Joseph prepped us. Read on.
For the famine is sore in the land of Canaan.
Now, we live in the land of Canaan, man, because, it was famine over there. Read on.
Now, therefore, we pray thee, let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen.
We like, man, just let us go over there in the land of Goshen and just dwell and chill out your hair. Y'all over here while we're over here. You over there, we here. And that's how it should be. Read on. What did Pharaoh say?
Verse 5. And Pharaoh spake unto Joseph, saying, thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. Verse 6. The land of Egypt is before thee, and the best of the land make thy father and brethren to dwell.
Make the best of thy land for thy father and thy brother to dwell. Meaning, and this is the thing too, man, and what we got to realize, and which is so heavy about it. This right here proves that we're not supposed to be together all kumbaya. And guess what? It can be done here in America. How can it be done here? How can it be done here? By taking your mind out of America. Once you take your mind out of America and their society and the things that they hold dear and start doing what the Lord said to do, it starts with observing this Passover that's coming up this Friday, man, in Cocoa Beach, Florida. And then you continue it, man, by keeping the feast of unleavened bread. And by coming into these classes, man, whether online or physically, and getting them demons off of you. You don't got to get on a boat and go to Zimbabwe or the physical Egypt that's over there in Africa. Nah. All you have to do is take this out of there. Tell yourself that you're not going to celebrate. What's the holiday coming up? Easter. Like what? And it goes to show you just how evil America and the Christian church, and the Muslim mosque is. Like, what the hell does that have to do with our King, Yahweh Shah Mashiach? When the Passover is about our King, Yahweh Shah, man. Passover is about, when the Lord took us out, of the land of Egypt, man. It's about, man, our King and the sacrifice that our King made so we can come back into this truth. Right. Where does the Easter bunny and the eggs come from? I'll tell you, it comes from Ishtar. It comes another god I buy from, guess where? Babylon. Another god, that dwells and comes from the Babylonians. Now, can't you see that America, is Babylon the great whore? America is spiritually Sodom and Egypt. That's why, as I brought up earlier, man, in Leviticus, the 20th chapter and the 26th verse, why it is important for us to separate and why it is important for us to realize that we cannot no longer continue to live the way that we're living here in America like the oppressor. We cannot continue to do that because it has not benefited us not one bit. I showed you where we're supposed to separate, on how we did it, you know what I mean, in the land of Goshen, on how Joseph was so wise to instruct us to say, yo, we need to dwell in our own land. Let's go gain Pharaoh up, man, so they can live over there and we can be over here. And that's rightfully so. Because here's the thing, America is the only place that pushes that garbage, man, that pushes that everybody needs to be integrated in this society. But what happens when we start to separate? That's when they start getting afraid. A lot of you think by putting on a dashiki and saying black power, you know what I mean, or saying salami, eggs, and bacon, you think that scares the oppressor. Nothing scares the oppressor more than that black man and woman and Latino man and woman and that Seminole Indian and First Nation man and woman coming back together. Right. That is the one thing that they fear. And guess what? They feared it in Egypt. Right. Aliazar, give me Exodus chapter 1 and verse 6, Baba Kushar. The Egyptians feared that as well. They did. They did. And I'm going to show you that in the Bible. The thing is, what we got to realize is ain't nothing new under, you know what I mean, the sun. Right. Like the tactics that are being used here in America, they're being used, you know, the tactics that are being used here in America, they were used back then in Egypt. Right. Now, if I could, give me Exodus chapter 1 and start at verse 6. Baba Kushar.
Exodus chapter 1, verse.
Go ahead. 1 and verse 6.
Verse 6. Verse 6.
Go ahead.
And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all the generations. Verse 7. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly.
Now, we were fruitful and we increased abundantly, meaning we went on while we were in Egypt. We came in, 70 deep? Now we increased. We started having more babies, and now we became great in numbers. Read on.
And multiplied. And waxed exceedingly mighty. And the land was filled with them.
And the land was filled with them. Now, you know what I mean? After Joseph died, now we started to grow and multiply. And now the Egyptians are looking at us. They like, man, what's going on with them Israelites over there in the land of Goshen? They starting to have babies. They starting to greatly grow and multiply. Read on.
Verse 8. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt.
Now a new king over Egypt arose, right? Now they got a new pharaoh. They got a new leader. Read on.
Which knew not Joseph.
Which didn't know Joseph. Which ain't know Joseph. And frankly, did not care. Read on. He saw how great, I'm jumping ahead, but damn it. He saw us waxing great and exceedingly starting to multiply. And they came together and said, yo, we got to watch these niggas. Salakia for the land. Read on.
Verse 9. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of...
Wait. If I could, right? I want you to read that again. I want you to read that for the Pan-Africanists out there. Because I think we going up, we missed something. Read that again from the top.
Verse 9. And he said unto his people.
He said unto his people. I thought we was all supposed to be together. I thought, you know what I mean? I thought integration was great, Ashtawak. This African said he had a council. He had to get together with his people. Now, you might not understand this, but that is significant in himself. Meaning he's addressing his people right now. Read on. What did he say?
And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
They say, yo, the children of Israel, those blacks and Latinos and First Nation men and women, they are more and mightier than we. Them Africans looked at us and said, yo, You know, the Israelites is bad, man. They can't beat us. They can beat us. Salakia. We can't take them. They are more. And read it again. Read that last line again.
Behold, the people of the children of Israel.
The people of the children of Israel, that Latino man and woman, that black man and woman, read on.
Are more and mightier than we.
They are more and mightier than we. What does it mean when it says that they are more and mightier than we? Meaning our number, it ain't even just about the numbers. They like, man, they starting to have children at an expedition rate. And meaning more mighty, let me tell you something. And this is just me observing from afar. When it says they are more and mightier than we, how can I put this in terms you would have to understand? It would take 100 Africans to put up a semblance of a fight against a brother like Isupk. And he's still going to tell you need another 100. You can forget about Ibad. They're looking at us like, man, they got together with their people and they like, yo, hold up. They more and mightier than we. They growing at an expedition rate, man. And you know how the tribes, you know what I mean? You know how we make them children. You know what I mean? Black woman, Latino woman, First Nation woman, you pump them babies out. That's why the Egyptians are about to incorporate something that is evil and devastating that the oppressor still incorporates to this day. But they were able to understand and look and say, yo, we got to watch them. They're becoming more and more every day, and they're mightier than we. Read on.
Verse 10, come on, let us deal wisely with them.
He said, come on, let us deal wisely with them. They said, hold on, man, we can't just deal with them any type of way. These Africans came together and had a council and said, yo, we have to deal wisely with them. We have to be very careful how we deal with the children of Israel. Read on. And why is that? Go ahead. Keep reading.
Lest they multiply and it come to pass
Mm-hmm.
that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies.
They said, yo, they was so worried about us joining. It was like, man, if we go and have another war with another one of our enemies, they may join them and overtake us. They was fearful, man. They was terrified of blacks and Latinos and First Nation men and women, as they should be, because the Lord is with us, man. That's the main thing that we forget as a people, is that if the Lord can be for us, who can be against us? And these Africans found this out, and they're going to find out. What we got to realize is that's why it's essential to do what the Lord said to do. These heathens, man, looked at us and were terrified. They said, yo, man, we got to deal wisely with them. They might join one of our nations and overtake us. Read on. So what did they do? Read on.
And fight against us.
Mm-hmm.
And so get them up out of the land.
He said, we got to get them up out of the land. We got to do something about these Israelites. Mind you, we over here in Goshen, chilling, unbothered, separated. And they observing this from afar like, hold up, man. Read on.
Verse 11. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters.
What does it mean where he set over them taskmasters? What does that mean? Go ahead.
People to watch over them.
I'll take it. I'll take it. You're right. People to watch over us. You know who your modern day taskmaster would be? Your modern day taskmaster would be your pastor, your imam. That's your modern day taskmaster. That's who that is. Setting up Uncle Tom Negroes, you know what I mean? They get a little bit of power and compromise. Now they're your taskmaster. They wasn't like Joseph. Wasn't like Daniel. Wasn't like Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. Wasn't like, you know what I mean, any brother or sister that's one West in the UPK and the truth. These taskmasters, man, afflicted us. You know what I mean? Made it hard for our people, man. And the Egyptians did this because they understood that we cannot continue to grow and multiply the way we were. Read on.
To afflict them with their burdens.
To afflict them with their burdens. What were these burdens that we started to get afflicted with? What was it? I'll tell you. You know what the burdens that we started to get afflicted with was? Is this. Is that now our time in Egypt, you know what I mean, is starting to become a real nightmare. Now they're starting to afflict us. Now we're put in hardcore bondage, slavery. Because that's what Egypt means. Egypt means bondage. It means slavery. That's what it means. Read on.
And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities.
We built for Pharaoh treasure cities. And for all of you simple Negroes out there that love Egypt, like I see y'all with the Ankhs. I seen y'all talk about rah, 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 set, Akhenaten, and all them different, you know what I mean, figments of the imagination of them Africans. Who do you think built those treasure cities? Who do you think built them pyramids? Like I don't know about y'all. As a black man, when I see pyramids, my back start hurt. My back started to hurt a little bit. I'd be like, God damn, I can only imagine how rough that was back then. You think your elevator plantation, your slavery is rough now. Imagine being out there, being afflicted by them stinking Africans and that heat. You know it get hot over there. Y'all talking about the heat down there in Florida and Texas and the humidity up here in Philly. You know what I mean? This heat that we was in, you know what I mean, during that time was rough. And they afflicted us with our burdens. And we built for them treasure cities. Meaning everything too, and there's another thing too, and I went over this in the previous class. Everything great about Egypt, we made it great. If it wasn't for Abraham, who was a black man, you know, one of our forefathers, Egypt wouldn't have arithmetic. They wouldn't have, you know what I mean, their system. They wouldn't have their knowledge. Shalom, Cap, y'all watching. You want the class, sir? Oh, come on, the water, sir. Come on. They wouldn't have it. Because when Abraham went into Egypt, you know what I mean, when he was walking the earth, guess what? Long before Joseph, long before Jacob, long before Isaac, guess what? That's what Abraham saw when he went there. He saw that the Egyptians knew nothing. Like, I don't think y'all realize, you know what I mean, how simple, you know what I mean, these heathens really are. Like, they believe that if you go down to the Nile and grab crocodile feces and rub it on your woman's private area, that can help her get fertile and produce a child. That's the knowledge. You see, Ashtawak, that's the science, brother. You got to rub the dung up in your girl thing and then you can have a child. I'm pretty sure Abraham didn't rub no crocodile dung in Sarah so they could get out. Go ahead, Ashtawak. The science is, you know, Ashtawak, they get mystical powers. They eating devil fruits over there, Ashtawak. They get mystical powers by eating the hands of their albinos. Black man and woman, Latino man and woman, you not African. And their whatever sense of morality and knowledge they have, it's garbage. We built their treasure cities because we were in captivity there. We were in slavery. Our world turned upside down. Here we are in the land of Goshen, chilling, multiplying, not bothering nobody, serving our God. Here comes the Africans. They didn't come over to be our friends. They ain't come over, you know what I mean, to be cool with us. They put us in bondage and made us build them treasure cities. They made us build their society up and make it great. Reading on. Stay with me, warrior. Read on.
Pithom and Ramesses.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 12. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
Now here's the thing. The more we were afflicted by these heathens, right? The more, you know what I mean, even though we was in hardcore slavery, even though we've been afflicted with our burdens each and every day there, we still started to grow. We still was growing as a people, as blacks and Latinos and First Nation men and women, man. Read on.
And they were grieved because of the children of Israel.
They was grieved. They was like, yo, how the hell are they still growing? We afflicted them, shalom, our Lord Christ. We afflicted them with their burdens. We making them serve in slavery. We making them build the pyramids. We making them, you know what I mean, do everything for us. How is it that they still have the time to grow and multiply and have babies? That terrified. They were grieved because of that. They said, oh man, they still growing as a people. And then they had a diabolical idea. Go ahead, Ashtawak.
I could, what's heavy about what you said about the treasure cities part is, that reminds me of like these major cities and stuff, how they'll live in like the better parts of the city, like with the skyscrapers and everything, they work there and everything. And we work there too, but we'll live on the outskirts, like we'll live somewhere else while we done built up for them to have condos and stuff like this downtown. We built up their cities, but then we gotta stay on the outskirts. That show you we're in the same position in America that we was in Egypt.
No, what you right? What you bringing out, Isupk, is heavy because that's how it is. Every treasure city in America we built. We built this country. But what do they say? Go back to your own land. Go back to Africa when we not African, black man and woman. They tell our Latino brothers and sisters, man, that you know what I mean that you're illegal aliens when the oppressor is the real illegal alien, man.
Right.
You crossed an entire ocean to avoid taxes and then turned around and imposed taxes on blacks, Latinos, and First Nation men and women. Unleashed a vicious form of biological warfare on our First Nation brothers and sisters by giving them blankets and pillows filled with smallpox, man. The white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of, man.
Right.
He is the goddamn devil, el hombre blanco es el diablo. And that's what we have to realize. They afflict us to this very day. We build up this country, man, and made it great. But when the oppressor says make America great again, Ashtawa, they talking about going back to real hardcore physical slavery. And guess what? We still in slavery today, black man, Latino man, First Nation man and woman. What do I mean by you still in slavery? Yeah, the physical chains are off, but the mental chains are stronger than the physical chains. Because you can't let Christmas go. You can't let Thanksgiving go. You can't let your birthday go. You can't let Mother's Day or Father's Day or any other of these stupid holidays that the oppressor has, you know what I mean? You can't let that go. Now is the time to let it go, black man, Latino man, First Nation man and woman. Let's read on from where you were, Aliazar.
Verse 13. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor.
Now we're starting to serve with rigor. What does it mean with rigor? Meaning now it's starting to get rough. Now it's starting to, our workload started to triple and quadruple. Like you thought, you know what I mean, the captivity was rough before. Now they turning the heat on, man. Read on.
Verse 14. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, hard slavery, man. I don't understand it. You want to wear the ox. You want to give praise to Africa. You want to wear head wraps and burn sage and be like, Ashe, brother, Ashe, I hear you. But where was all that when we was enslaved in Egypt? Where was all that for them Africans? They weren't trying to hear that. They wasn't trying to hear none of that. They made us serve with hard bondage, man, with rigor. And they made our lives bitter. They made our lives hell. And what you got to realize, man, hell is a condition. Hell is not some little purgatory, some little underground that you go to where some white man in pink pantyhose is poking you for all eternity. No. Hell is that ghetto and barrio that we live in. Hell is that concentration camp called the reservation. And to get back to what I was saying earlier, Ibad Hayat, they think what's going on in the Ukraine is hell. What goes on here in America and our ghettos and barrios is real hell. You want to talk about them buildings that are being burnt down and them run down buildings. I can show you buildings like that in my neighborhood, man, in Southwest Philadelphia. I can show you that in North Philly or West Philly. You can find it in Northeast. You can find it in Harlem. You can find it in San Bernardino. You can find it in Houston. You can find it in Cleveland. Why? Because the children of Israel dwell there, blacks and Latinos and First Nation men and women. The oppressor took a page out of the Africans' book, out of one of their plays, and said, hey, let's increase their workload. Let's make them serve with rigor. Where do you think the oppressor got that from? To make our lives hell like that? They only doing what the Babylonians did, what the Romans did, because the oppressor is the Roman, and they're only doing, you know what I mean, the Persians and the Medes did. Don't you see the trend of what these other nations have done to us? And don't you see the trickle down effect on how we're right here and they're up there? That's in the scriptures too. Read on, Aliazar.
Verse 14, and they made their lives bitter and with hard bondage.
They made our lives bitter with hard bondage, man. Read on.
in mortar and in brick.
And in mortar and with brick, meaning we built them stinking pyramids, man. We were the ones that built them, and it wasn't by choice. We was in slavery. I want to talk about and see how majestic it is in one of them 7 or 8 wonders of the world, man. I tell you, man, I look at them pyramids, man, and get sharp back pain and be like, God damn, I know that was rough during the time when we were here. Because we were here before Black man, Latino man, First Nation man and woman, because of the regeneration, the reincarnation. Read on.
And in all manner of service in the field.
And all manner of service in the field, man, with brick and mortar out there in them fields. That sound familiar to y'all? Who else had us in those fields picking cotton? On them plantations down there in the north and in the south. The oppressor took a page from the Egyptians, from the Africans, made us serve in all manners of the field. Read on.
All of their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor.
And was with rigor. Meaning every time that we had to serve, every day that we was out there in that field, out there serving them Africans and building up their treasure cities, it was made with rigor. I mean, it was rough. It was rough, Black man, Latino man, First Nation man and woman. And that's why, and here's the thing, right? Even with all of that, we were still multiplying as a people. Now, this is the big one that the oppressor uses to this very day, that the Egyptians came up with, that the Africans started. You know what I mean? To deal with us further. Read on, read verse 15. Announce where you at.
Exodus chapter 1, verse 15.
Mm-hmm.
And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives.
Now the Egyptians is talking to the Hebrew midwives. Now they talking to the sisters. I wonder what they could be planning. Read on.
Of which the name of one was Sephora.
Mm-hmm.
And the name of the other Pua.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 16. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife.
Now, when you do the office of a midwife, now when you come to do the office of a midwife, sister, guess what? What is a midwife? Now you're the sister that helps, you know what I mean? The sisters deliver these babies, man. Read on.
To the Hebrew women,
mm-hmm.
and see them upon the stool.
Now, while they upon the stool, getting ready to give birth, you know what I mean, to our babies. Read on.
If it be a son.
Now, if it be a son, do what? Keep reading.
Then ye shall kill him.
Then ye shall what?
Kill them.
Then ye shall kill them. Why did the Egyptians sell the Hebrew midwives, man, our sisters, that when the sisters start to have children and when they have sons, kill the son? You want to know why? Because the seed relies within the man. You are who your father is. Zarabakar, hold that in Numbers, I believe it's Numbers 1 and 18. Hold that for me. Yeah, let's go to there real quick. We got to realize, man, the seed comes from the man. We understand that the woman does give birth, but who you are and what makes you who you are and your nationality, your pedigree, it comes from your father. Now, I'm about to say something that's a little controversial that a lot of your individualites don't like, but I know y'all love that Bob Marley. But guess what? He's a white man. He's an oppressor. I know y'all love Kamala Harris. She's a white woman. What you got to realize is who your father is what determines who you are. If your father is a black man, you know what I mean, over here in America, over there in the West Indian Islands or in Haiti, guess what? Your father is a man of the tribe of Judah or Benjamin or Levi. If your father is a Puerto Rican man, you are of the tribe of Ephraim. But here's the thing. If your father, you know what I mean, is an oppressor, then you are Esau. You are the devil that the Bible speaks of. If your father was a Hamite of Nigeria, of Ghana, you know what I mean, Madagascar, whatever, some Hamite country, you are who your father is. You are not an Israelite. Right. What you got to realize is, and here's the thing too, and why it's so important, man, to marry You know what I mean? To keep, to keep the marriages, the way the Lord said it to be, because sex is marriage. Why it's important for you to marry that black woman, to marry that Latino woman, and marry that First Nation woman. And sister, why it's important to marry your own people because of this. Since when you go out there and lay with Bill, Bob, and Fred, you are continuing his legacy and his line and his people. That's why you had to go and lay with that black man, that First Nation man, and Latino man. And black man, Latino man, and First Nation man, you're not supposed to marry heathens, man. You ain't supposed to marry Susan and Becky and Nunfutu and Nangala. You ain't supposed to do that. You ain't supposed to do that. That's a sin according to God, man. And it is so devastating to do, man, to our people, man, to go out there and marry outside of your nation. And you can see the effects of it, man, and how destructive it is. That's why it's important, man, to keep these marriages the way the Lord said to. And why the Lord told us in Deuteronomy 7:3, to neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Right. But I know some of y'all Negroes make excuses. I ain't gonna say no names. You know what I mean? Big shout out to priest and captain of 10,000, Captain Katazai. You know what I mean? We were crushing, you know what I mean? The one brother all across the line, you know what I mean, going out there and getting his white concubine. You ain't supposed to do that, brother. You're not supposed to marry any heathen under any circumstance. We just went over this, Ashtawak and Ibad, you know what I mean, in Nehemiah. When Nehemiah said, did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things by marrying outlandish women, man? Marrying these heathen women? You ain't supposed to do that. Now, here's the thing. They came at the Egyptians, the Africans came to the midwives, the Hebrew midwives, because they knew that the man carries the seed, that you cannot let their sons live. Go ahead, Zerah.
It's the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month. And they declared their pedigrees. Now,
they declared their pedigrees, man. Meaning declaring their lineage, man. Who they came from. Read on.
After their families. By the house of their fathers.
By the house of their mamas.
By the house of their fathers.
By the house of their fathers. That's why it's important to understand, man, and it's important who your father is. If your father is black, Latino, or First Nation, then you are an Israelite, man.
Right.
It's by the pedigree of your father. That's who it is. It ain't by your mother. And that's what makes the oppressor evil. They like to say, oh, you have to have a Jewish mommy. My mommy is Jewish, which makes me an Israelite. No. The oppressor that's perpetuating the fraud will never be a Jew, will never be an Israelite. That's why they call themselves Israelis. Them Africans over there in Eritrea and Ethiopia talking about they are Falasha Jews. They are not Israelites, man. Solomon did not marry the queen of Sheba. Solomon did not have sex with her, man, and had children. He didn't do that. That's what we got to realize, man. If you black, Latino, or First Nation, man, you got to understand you are that because of who your father is. If your father's black or Latino or First Nation, meaning you are an Israelite. And these Egyptians understood that and knew that. That's why, if I could, can we go back to there? Pick it up by where Eleazar left off in Exodus chapter 1 and verse 16. That if they have a son, right, you got to kill the son. Why is that? Why are they pushing that? Because they know we can't have strong brothers rising up. Why do you think it is so many abortion clinics in our neighborhoods? Why do you think that they are pushing Planned Parenthood to our sisters? It is almost like a badge of honor, Ashtawak. You know what I mean? To go and get an abortion, to think about your career. Go ahead.
That too. That, and if I could too, I think, I brought it up there one time. It's like 90,000 more women in Philly than it is men. I think they said 20% of them are in jail.
Damn.
So they trying to bind the strong man, you know what I'm saying, and promote to us the criminal lifestyle and selling drugs and, keep us outside the works where they make it seem easy, but really they want us killing each other and in jail, because then who's going to protect your family? Who's going to build your community? Who's going to do things that are essential that men do, you know what I'm saying, in these houses? And then in that same article, they break down how your child is going to be worse, the male and the female, from not having a father in the house, and the leading cause of poverty is not having a father.
And listen, man, Barakatah Yahweh Shah for the ISUPK under Commander General Yohana, man. Right. You know what I mean? Because we rebuilding black and Latino and First Nation families to this very day. where strong brothers can come in here, man, most high in Christ, where black men and Latino men and First Nation men can be masculine again, where sisters, where you can be feminine again. Because now they talk about, well, we gotta do something about that man because of toxic masculinity. When toxic masculinity will save your household. What do I mean by toxic masculinity will save your household? I'm not talking about that brother beating the hell out of you every day like Ike Turner. Nah. The problem is, like Isupk was bringing out and paraphrasing, man, when you first bind the strong man, now the oppressor can come in and spoil all the goods of his house. And not realizing, sister, that you playing along with your new daddy, the oppressor. Why do you think the Egyptians came, and it ties in so perfect, they came to the sisters and said, yo, you got to get rid of that son. That's why they're pushing that. That's why they don't want black men and Latino men and First Nation men to even be men. It is taboo to be a strong, masculine brother, Isupk. Like, you can't be a strong brother. They looking at you like, man, what's up with you? What's going on with you? Being masculine. Who the hell you think you are? You know what they say, Zara? You know what I mean? You need to get in touch with your feminine side.
Right.
Like, what the hell does that mean? We ain't soft over here, man.
Right.
Like, black man, it is okay to be strong. It's perfectly fine to be a strong brother, man. And sisters, y'all gonna recognize it, man. That's why the Lord said that he will make a man more precious than fine gold. Why? Because it's hard to find a strong brother nowadays, man. Especially in the world. A lot of you sisters say every day to me, I wish I could find a strong, you know what I mean, brother. You know what I mean? You ain't looking hard enough. You need to come into the Isupk and get Zara. You need to come get Isupk. I think they might be, listen, they still taking applications. You can forget about it. That line for Ibai about to get cut off. You got so many coming in, you can forget about it. I'm trying to tell you. You got to come get Ali Azar if you're looking for a strong brother. And brother, if you're looking for a righteous sister, you got to come in here and clean yourself up and get right with the Lord and come into this strong trooper program, man, this fail-safe trooper program, man, and change your life and become a strong brother and get one of these righteous sisters in the UPK.
Right.
You out there, and God forbid, man, you got to sit like Zara. Like, you know what's out there. You know what's out there. Like, this is what's crazy about it, right? What's the model for the strong sister that don't need no brother, that don't need protected now? It's that bald-headed, clamorous bitch, Jada Pinkett Smith. Right. Lock it for the language. That's your strong woman? Nah, man. The model of a strong black and Latino and First Nation woman, look no further than the sisters in the UPK, man. Give them a hand. Give that strong brother, you know what I mean, in the UPK a hand, man. You don't got to live like Will and Jada out there, man. You can come into this truth and become masculine again, brother. Come into this truth, sis, and learn how to be feminine again. Now, back to what I was saying, right? What we was bringing out. They went over there to the Hebrew midwives, to the sisters, and said, yo, we got to get rid of them. We have to, and they are plotting. You got to understand, they are plotting to kill our babies, man. Like, and that goes to show you how diabolical these Africans are. They were going to take our babies and throw them in the Nile for the crocodiles to eat, man. And the oppressor has done that, using our babies for gator bait, man. And you still want to integrate with them and think they're cool, that they're all right? Susan that's telling us, Hillary Clinton that's telling us that Planned Parenthood is Tawab, sis. You better wake up and realize that we've been lied to. You better wake up and realize that they have a foolproof plot, you know what I mean, against blacks and Latinos and First Nation men and women. A lot of y'all want to believe in conspiracy theories, you know what I mean, and watching that Alex Jones and every other crazy nut on the internet, when you don't realize, man, that the plot to kill us, man, is happening right now. Why do you think they put the weed and the rest of the drugs in our communities and the guns and Planned Parenthood, man? They want us to destroy ourselves and each other, man. Read on.
Okay. This is the book of Exodus, the 1 and verse 16. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 17.
But if it be a daughter, you shall live. Why do you think it said be a daughter, you shall live? Go ahead, right?
They understand the seed passes through the father, and they plan on taking our woman.
That's right. And they do it to this very day. They plan on taking our women, man. And when you see it now, man, like I know everybody was so hyped and trying to praise Will Smith for his role in King Richard, you know what I mean, and playing Venus and Serena's father. Like, how shameful is it, man, to get both your daughters is dealing with the oppressor? Like, that's a rough one. Like, Isupk, that's a rough one. You know what I mean? And Richard was wise in this, man, because he ain't go to Serena's wedding. He told her, he said, listen, daughter, like, your oppressor is my enemy, and I am his. And what you gotta realize, man, that's heavy. So they were gonna they killed our sons, but they'll let the daughters live. They'll sleep with you. And the quote, Captain Tazaria, and what you don't realize, black woman, Latino woman, First Nation woman, and especially for you brothers, when you go out there and lay with those heathens, you become their pets. You don't realize it, man. You can end up like some delusional Negroes we know, Ashtawa, and not realize you think you're getting the concubine, but the quote, Captain Kadazai, you're the concubine. You're the concubine. You're the pet of that oppressor that you're with. You don't realize that you're Bill's pet, that you're Tim's pet. You don't know that you're Susan and Becky's pet. You don't understand that. But they'll let our daughters live. They'll let that happen. Nah, man. Now it's time to come into this truth and realize who our enemies are, man. And Africans are our enemies. He said they'll let them daughters live. But here's the thing. And listen, you're right, Uriah Bar. Kanye West is another prime example of that. Dealing with them heathens, man, you will lose your goddamn sanity. For what? For a whore that's been passed around by everybody in the world and some of the brothers in this room. Joking, of course. Joking. Don't take me to counsel. Go ahead, Dr. Watt.
If I could, was heavy about what you're bringing out too. Like, this is why, like you was saying earlier, like when you were saying the brainwashing part, like they'll think we crazy for saying we only supposed to deal with our own people. Like the article just came out with a sister said she married a devil, and when they be having sex, he call her the N-word. You know what I'm saying? And then I just pulled a scripture, you know what I'm saying, to show you what a mother and father is supposed to tell their child about Samson was going to deal with Delilah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the book of Judges, chapter 14, verse 3.
I know exactly where you're going. This is an excellent precept. Read what you got.
It said, then his father and his mother said unto him, is there never a woman among the daughter of thy brethren?
He said, is it never a woman of who?
Among the daughter of thy brethren.
Meaning you can't choose a sister of your brethren of the 12 tribes of Israel. To give you a little backdrop, right? I might do this a little, you know what I mean, in a later class that I do to go into Samson. Remind me about. Understand this. Samson dealt with two heathen women. He dealt with, what's that? I forget her name. Tima and Delilah. Now, his father and mother's like, yo, like I'm gonna put it in terms that y'all, let me put it in terms that you'll understand now, right? Your son or daughter comes home and they like, Mom, Dad, this is Susan, this is Becky, this is Bill, this is McGillicuddy. And you like, nigga, you can't pick a daughter of your own tribe, of your own people. We got 12 different flavors. You like, daughter, you couldn't go get you couldn't go get Ashtawat, you couldn't go get Zariah. Is it never? It's not a daughter of your own, from your own brethren. Go ahead, Ashtawat.
If I could, like, if that sister is like, you pick the devil that's gonna call you an N-word while he having sex with you, couldn't find out one brother. You know what I'm saying? That would have been better than this devil, but this is the devil that you chose to live with.
You know what that devil gonna do? Like, and you're right, Martez Roberts. He brought up another brother, Tiger Woods. You know what happens when you marry the oppressor? They end up beating the hell out of you, taking $500 million from you. Ask Dr. Dre. Ask him. Goes to show you, man, why we can't. It goes to show you, man, like into a lot. If I can speak to you superstar athletes for 1 second, right? You can't go get a sister and build her up. Like, sis, you can't go get a brother and build him up. You got to go marry the oppressor. Nah, man, we can't do that. Excellent precept, Oscar. Was you finished with that? Go ahead.
Never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all thy people, that you must go and get a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines.
What does that mean where he says, well, you got to go get a daughter from the uncircumcised Philistines? Let me quote Samson's father, Samson's father, and what they saying. You got to go get one of them stinking Hamites, right, smelling like rhinoceros residue and giraffe water. You got to go get one of them. They cut the hands off of their albinos, and eat them and still dwell and plot on the rest of the body parts. You got to go get them. They're our enemies. Like, and it comes to point, like, you can't find beauty in yourself. You can't realize, man, that There ain't no sister. Yeah, you got to realize this. You know what I mean? Black, Latino, First Nation, man. The sisters, you know what I mean, in the 12 tribes, man, because those are our women, man. There ain't nothing better than the sisters that are in the 12 tribes of Israel, man. Than that Black, Latino, and First Nation woman. There ain't nothing better than them. And since you're going to realize ain't nothing better than that Black, Latino, and First Nation man in the 12 tribes of Israel. Because you know what's going to happen when you go outside of the 12 tribes? There was a brother, man, that was in the news a couple days ago. I forget his name, man. He got into an argument with his oppressor wife. And she stabbed him to death. And they didn't even arrest her. You know why? Because she free, white, and 21. She can do that. Let you go kill a white girl and see what happens. Go see what happens. You're going to be in jail. You're going to be under the jail. Whistle at the oppressor's daughter. Like, big shout out to Officer Darren, y'all Officer 1000. He brought out during a previous class, right, about the two brothers that played the kissing game with a bunch of devils, man. And they locked them two brothers up, man, in a jail for a week. Didn't let their lawyers see them or their parents. And they went down there on Halloween and put on them hoods because the boys knew the Klan was outside, messing with them, put on the Klan's outfit and scared them brothers, man, half to death. And beat them half to death as well, man. The oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. You ain't supposed to choose the oppressor or choose these Africans or choose these heathens in none of their ways, man. Now, if I could, right? I buy whole Exodus 11 in verse 7, vocal show.
Okay.
This is why, you know what I mean, which is so heavy, right, about this truth, man. And why we celebrate, you know what I mean, the Lord's Passover, you know what I mean, the month of Abib. Also, too, right, what you got to realize, just so I can touch on it now, so I do not forget. Which I do not forget, right? We got to realize, man, at the beginning, you know what I mean, of the so-called New Year is Passover during the month of Abib. Now, but we have to realize that January 1st, we went over in previous classes, that is not the so-called New Year. The New Year begins with the Passover. That's the so-called New Year. Like, you got to realize this Latino man and woman, Black man and woman, you sitting around here, you know what I mean, thinking when it gets cold, you know what I mean, in January, in the dead of winter, that's the New Year, when the whole time the New Year is the Passover. That is the beginning of months. And what we have to understand is the significance and why important it is, man, to observe the Lord's Passover. Why we have to remember, you know what I mean, the times of old and what's happened to our people. Because if we do not, we're going to continue to be lost, just like our brothers and sisters in the world, man. Now, if I could, give me an Exodus 11 and verse 7. This was the punishment, man. This was the punishment. If I could, right, go up and start at verse 5.
Okay. This is Exodus 11, verse 5.
Mm-hmm.
And all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die.
Now, all the firstborn of the land of Egypt shall die. The Lord was plaguing Egypt, you know what I mean, to smithereens, man, because of what they done to our people. Read on. Now, because of that, you know what I mean, the big plague, the last one that happened was dreadful. Was dreadful, and which was glorious to every Black, Latino, and First Nation man and woman, man. At the firstborn of every Egyptian shall die. Read on.
From the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts.
And the firstborn of the beasts, meaning from all the way up from Pharaoh, all the way up from their leader, all the way down to the lowest servant, and to even their beasts. The Lord ain't got no picks. The Lord ain't a respecter of persons, man. He said, no, all of them got to get it. All they firstborn. Read on.
Verse 6. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt.
And there shall be a great cry throughout the land of Egypt, man. They about to cry and moan and complain like they never had before. Go ahead, sis.
Did only the firstborn male stop, or did the female stop?
The firstborn, everything.
Male and female.
Male and female. The firstborn of all of them had to go. Read on.
Oh God. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it anymore.
He said, man, these Africans ain't never seen nothing like this before. The Lord was letting us know. Listen, what I'm getting ready to do to them, it ain't never been done. You ain't never seen nothing like this. Read on.
Verse 7. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue.
Now, against any of the children of Israel, now shall a dog move his tongue. Meaning this. Now, nobody is going to be able to speak against the God of Israel, man. Against the children of Israel. Now shall a dog move his tongue. Read on.
Against man or beast.
Mm-hmm.
That ye may know how the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel.
The Lord put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. The Lord put a difference between us and the Africans for a reason, man. For a reason. Because we was in captivity over there with them Hamites, man. With them Africans. We was in hardcore bondage, slavery. And that's what we got to realize, man, with this Passover. We are remembering, what the Lord did for our people, man. By smiting the firstborn of them Africans. Because of what they've done to our people. Now, it is important, Black man, Latino man, First Nation man and woman. It is important to understand this as the Lord's chosen people. Why it's essential that we have to observe the Lord's Passover. Got to come down there to Cocoa Beach, Florida this Friday, man. Friday, sundown, Cocoa Beach, Florida. Commander General Yohana got us out there on the beach, got us the whole hotel, got 3 hotels, man. Get that at hand. But we have to realize, man, that the UPK is the home of the truth, and this is the only and official Lord's Passover that we are getting ready to observe. And if you cannot, be there with us physically, damn sure tune in online, man. It is important for us to do that because we are a people, man, that have been robbed and spoiled. We don't understand who we are. We don't understand our identity. We don't know that we are, the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, man, that Black, Latino, and First Nation men and women. If I could hold 2 scriptures. So, Rod, give me Revelations 18 and verse 4, right? And Ashtawat. Give me 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 17. But let me get Revelation 18 and verse 4 first. Bobbity. Let me sort through some of these questions. Lil man, it is unlawful to eat shrimp, brother. I'm hoping you're a brother. You should be. If you're watching this class. Shrimp is unlawful. That's in Leviticus, the 11th chapter. Anything, that does not have fins and scales, you cannot eat it. You can't eat shrimp, can't eat tuna. I know that tuna's a rough one. Ran my brother out the truth, Astawat. My main man came into this truth with me, man. Came to class, arrived a car, and guess what? General Mayak sat right here and told us you can't smoke weed and sleep with white women. It might have been that. But that's what it probably was. But when General Mayak got to the tuna, he was like, damn. Like, that was the rough piece. Can't eat tuna, can't eat shrimp, crab, pork, and lobster. You can find that in Leviticus, the 11th chapter. Now, if I could, Zarad, give me Revelation 18 and verse 4.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 18, verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people.
The Lord is telling us to come out of her, my people. What does it mean when the Lord says, come out of her, my people? Meaning now is the time to take your mind out of this wicked society. Take your mind out of Babylon. Take your mind out of America. He ain't telling this to all people. The Lord said, my people. Read on.
That ye be not partakers of her sins.
You don't want to be partakers in their sins. You don't want to be caught eating shrimp, crab, pork, and lobster during that day when our King Yahweh Shah Mashiach returns. You don't want to be that, brother and sister. You don't want to be joined to the oppressor that day. Read on.
And that ye receive not of her plagues.
And that ye receive not of her plagues. Meaning this, you don't want to receive of them plagues because there are more plagues to come. You think the Lord is you think COVID-19 is going to wind down and get better? No, the Lord is not done with America in these plagues, man. And there are going to be more plagues to come. That's why the Lord said, don't be partakers of her sins and receive not of her plagues. You don't want to receive of them plagues that's getting ready to hit. You thought what the Lord did to Egypt was rough. Wait till that thermonuclear warfare happens, man. And that was prophesied in the Bible as well, man. Right. Where the Lord said that he was going to, cause thermonuclear war. I believe it's Zechariah, the 14th chapter and the 12th verse. Man, your eyes and your tongues is going to melt inside of your body and disintegrate. I know y'all seen Terminator 2 Judgment Day. That was a rough scene. But that's going to happen during that time, man. Now is the time to take your mind out of America, out of Babylon, and don't be partakers of her sins and receive not of her plagues. Because if you think you free, white, and 21 and try to live like that during the day where our king returned, during that dreadful day of the Lord, guess what? You will die with them. Now we pray, even though the Lord said that 2/3 must go, we pray that the Lord, man, has mercy on all blacks, Latinos, and First Nation men and women, man. Right. That's why it's essential for us to understand this. My last scripture, and I'm going to close out the class. Ashtawa, give me 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 9. 1 Peter 2 and 9, Ward.
The book of First Peter chapter 2 and verse 9. It says, but ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood.
We are what?
A chosen generation, a royal priesthood.
We are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. What does it mean to be a chosen generation? We're that generation of blacks, Latinos, and First Nation men and women, that have to come into this truth and change our lives. Right. If you a brother, put on that all black, man. If you a sister, man, wrap your hair up, cover your head, put on that dress, man. Put on that long dress that's not revealing, man, and show some modesty. Change your life for the Most High, man. Lord is saying, for you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. Now, contrary to what you may believe, right? Your pastor is not part of the royal priesthood. Your imam is not part of the royal priesthood. Your fake Israelites that like to get white concubines and heathen concubines are not part of the royal priesthood. That like to masquerade in their purple like they white daddy and go to strip clubs and hold Passover. No, they're not the priests of God. The royal priesthood are the priests and prophets in the Isupk under command of General Yohanan. This is that royal priesthood. Read on.
In holy nation.
In holy nation. Holy meaning separate, set apart. A separate nation. Read on.
A peculiar people.
A peculiar people, meaning a special people, man. That's what peculiar, a special people. Who's more special? Who's more peculiar than that black, Latino, and First Nation man and woman, man? We are the salt of the earth, but which makes us a peculiar people, which makes us special, which makes us the salt of the earth, is because the Lord chose us, man, to be that chosen generation, that peculiar people. The Lord chose us. That's what makes us a special people to the Most High. Read on.
That ye should show forth the praises of him who have called you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
That called you out of darkness and into his marvelous light. What does it mean to call you out of darkness? Being called out of the darkness, right? Being called out of the world. You're being called out of America, out of Babylon, into his marvelous light. What is his marvelous light? The marvelous light is this truth, man. The marvelous light is you coming back into the Israelite school of universal practical knowledge under command in General Yohanan. That's why the Lord told us, man, to gather ourselves together, to yea, gather together, O nation not desired. With that being said, I'm Priest and Officer of 1000 Yediah. This is the Monday night scripture breakdown class. I look forward to seeing all of you in Cocoa Beach, Florida this Friday for the Lord's Passover, man. I implore you all, make it down to the Lord's Passover. Pay your tithes, and if you have not done this already, pay your Passover fee. Pay your Passover fee. Commander General Yohanan, man, has done it up big for us this time around, Israel. Get that Passover fee in. Pay your tithes, man. And I look forward to seeing every black, Latino, and First Nation man and woman down in Cocoa Beach, Florida this Friday, April 15th. And with that being said, I'm going to pass the class off to Priest and Officer Ashtawa.
Announcements. We got Isupk, shout out to West on the 25th Street, Home, New York. I'm the commander general. Food for new brother and sister. When a new brother and sister comes into the school, they're all given for 6 months. They're to be saluted only. They're here to shed themselves with the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission on the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After the 6 month period, the brother and sister will give permission on the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, you find it in the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21, or in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 8 through 10. Means sit the Hebrew of Ma'ashra, 10% of every penny of any people will give to the treasury department. Priest fund is a free will offering from priests, not mandatory whatsoever mental light. Upcoming holy convocations, we got the Passover coming up. It's going to be this Friday. You know what I'm saying? Down in Cocoa Beach, Florida. I walk and check the bulletin board in the hallway. Any brother wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black.
boots, shirt, headband, and scarf. With that being said, it's my percent. Israel, we're gonna get 136 salute. And Israel, Imam Shabbat. Majid, Barak.
Yahweh Bashem Yahushua Barakadam.
Yes, with top, with your hands down. Sorry, with your turn. Face sister, you can stand up. The salute for the sisters is your feet at a 45-degree angle with your right hand over your left hand. When we say Barak, you can smoke the left side of your chest with your right hand. With the Israel, Imam Shabbat. Majid, Barak.
Yahweh Shamar Alatham Bashem Yahushua.
Yahweh Shema, Alatham, Bashem, Yahweh Shah.
That's your time. That's your